What's up? It's your boy, Jacob, recording from the camp. So, interesting developments, guys, since last time. I finally broke free from my Uncle Laban. What can I say? Just like he promised me, God has been with me. Every time that old rogue tried to trick me, God was on my side. Laban tried to cheat me out of my wages 10 times. Who does that? I tell you, that guy has problems. He was all Mr. Nice Guy when I was working to pay off his daughters and earning him truckloads of cash. But after a while, I began to get rich too, and then everything changed. It didn't help that my brothers-in-law accused me of robbing them blind. I mean, I might be guilty of some shrewd decision-making, but robbing that lot isn't one of them. Just when things were beginning to look a little bit dicey, God told me to go back home. So here we are, almost there. I mean, Laban chased us, of course, but God was on my side again and warned him not to touch me. Good job too. Must have given him quite the fright. Whew. And then, you guys aren't going to believe this, I saw the angels again. Have you ever known anyone to see quite so many? It's been quite a week, guys. I can tell you that, quite a week. Now, I'm just left with the problem of Esau. One does not simply march back into one's brother's place years after one has tricked him out of his inheritance. I mean, he's already on his way to meet me with an army of 400 men. That's never a good sign. I'm a bit nervous. All right, I'm very nervous. So, this is the battle plan. Strategy number 1, divide everyone into groups. If Esau attacks one group, the other one might get away. Strategy number 2, obviously, you guys know me, I'm a pious man. Strategy number 2 is pray. Dear God, you promised to treat me kindly. I don't deserve it, but you have never failed me. Please, 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 please rescue me, God. I'm scared. By the way, did I mention the promise? Just thought that I'd brought it up again, in case you've forgotten. Okay, that's it. I'm in. Anyway, strategy number 3, presents. I am sending lots and lots of presents. Strategy number 4, send all my family to the other side of the river for the night. That just leaves me here, all alone. I think I'll lie down, rest, and recharge for tomorrow. Yeah, that's exactly what I need now. Some peace and quiet and a real good sleep.
Well, kia ora, Shore community. It's nice to be back, and don't worry, I'm not staying the night or anything. But we often life gets described, doesn't it, as a journey. And we step into life and we have all these, it's like we have our backpacks on and we get our camping gear and our backpack shirts and unshaven. We step into this world and go through the valleys of life, but we also have those mountaintop experience of life. And Jacob, and our main character in this series we've been looking at, is certainly on a journey of wanderings. In his case, from valley to another valley with all these like twists and turns. And his journey has been one of constant wrestle. Now, perhaps you're new to this series, so let's recap a little bit because we're 6 weeks into this now, and let's kind of imagine this gym is like a big map. And as we think about Jacob's wanderings, his journey, it actually begins in this wrestle way back before he is even born. So we kind of like head all the way back this way, and think about before he's even born, he's in the womb, and his mum says, it feels like there's this constant battle. She's like, what in the world is happening to me? It's like this WWE, this World Wrestling experience is taking place, as she doesn't know it at this point, but these twins are like crashing into each other. And that's how it all begins. There's this wrestling match already in the womb. And then, the birth happens, and we kind of start to move into the next place, and the twins come out, and one of the twins is grasping onto the heel of his brother, and so he's nicknamed, or he's given the name Jacob, which means heel grabber. And it's probably a cute name at the time, but it also has this like sinister overtone to it, because it can also mean manipulator or schemer, one who like cuts, trips others up. And so very apt name to describe Jacob as he tries to grasp the heel of his brother. It's like pulling him back into the birth canal, and he always wants to win. And then we kind of like keep moving on. So I'll kind of like, Jacob likes to maneuver through and squeeze through and dominate the situation and make himself at home in any situation, always finds a way forward. And so the very first adult scene that we have is when he steals the birthright from his brother. You might remember that story when there's like, makes that beautiful stew, takes that birthright from Esau, and that's that next scene. We start to see Jacob being played out in this kind of deceptive, manipulator, schemer. All these things that are true to his name are starting to play out on the story. Very next scene, he hears that his brother is about to give that blessing to Esau, even though it really should come to him now that he has the birthright. And so he dresses up as if he's Esau, and Esau was meant to be like a hero character, so it was like all these goat skins on to him. Goes in, his brother's a little bit suspicious, says, "Who are you? What's your name?" To which Jacob lies and says, "I am Esau." And, Jacob gives the blessing to Jacob, thinking he was Esau. Esau hears about that. Understandably, he's furious, upset. He vows, he makes this vendetta that he will kill his brother Jacob when his dad dies. And so Jacob flees and goes as far away as he can possibly go, like 800 kilometers to his uncle Laban's home. And he flees, and he's going to be there like 20 years in exile. 20 years at Uncle Laban. And Uncle Laban, it's like Jacob's almost looking in a mirror, because Laban is so much like him. He's out-Jacobed, he's out-deceived, he's out-manipulated by what is about to be his father-in-law. But Jacob is never one who loses in any fight. It's a wrestle, but he succeeds. And when God calls him to go back to the land of Canaan, Jacob comes back and he's married. In fact, he has 4 wives, he has a ton of kids, lots of herds. He's a very wealthy man, and he comes back, and it looks like he has been successful. He is the winner. That's a little bit of the wrestling throughout his journeys. Now, some of the feedback we've had as speakers during this series is, as many of you are saying, as you think about Jacob, you're kind of saying, oh, he is so dysfunctional. He is so messed up. He is like such a deceiving character. And, and as I've been reflecting on that, one of the questions for me is, how much of that was Jacob aware of it? And I say that because I'm aware of my own blind spots. We often have these areas in our lives where it's like we have these blinkers on, we don't see it. Everyone else sees it, but we don't, or we don't own up to it. And I see other people kind of in denial on their kind of traits as well. So I often wonder, was Jacob aware of the hurt he was bringing to others, to family, to himself? Or was he just blind to it, or just didn't want to own up to it? Well, I don't know the answers to that one. What I do know is that today he is about to come face to face with himself. He is about to see that this chasm that exists in his own life, the huge pain he is bringing, this wrestling that needs to be kind of dealt with in his life. Now, as we've seen in the series, Hebrew writers love wordplays. And there's some similar sounding words as we come into our story today. So let's put them up on the screen. They would have got the attention of the original audience. So you have 3 here. Jacob, or Yaakov, our main character, the heel grabber, the grasper, the wrestler. And then you have Jabbok, which is the stream or the river that Jacob is going to need to cross in this story. You have wrestling, or wrestle, Jabbok, which is this wrestling match that we're about to see right here in our story. So the whole idea is that before Jacob takes another step on his journey, Jabbok, the heel grabber, is going to need to wrestle with God on the side of the Jabbok. Are you with me? I won't get you to say any of those words out loud. But the Jabbok is about to be this pivotal moment, this place where Jacob is about to wrestle in his wanderings. Now, before we jump in and see this next stage in his journey, you need to remember that this story isn't given to us as some historical biography to just whet our appetites. It's given to us because we're meant to reflect on our own journeys, our own wanderings. Because after all, pivotal moments happen in all of our lives that are largely unexpected and disruptive. And this is true for you whether you are a person of faith or whether you're still exploring where you kind of fit into this whole story. It's true for you whether you've been on a journey with Jesus for decades or whether you're pretty new at this whole thing. It's there on the riverbanks of our own Jabbok River that it's like God opens up our eyes to see this chasm and the danger that exists right in here. And why does he do it? Well, the big idea we're going to see today is that God brings us to pivotal moments where he wrestles us into a transformed life. And we're going to see that big idea come out and play out in the story. And really, it's the setting is set by these two campsites. So campsite number one is right over here where Jacob sets up camp, and we read this in the story. Let's read. Next slide. As Jacob started on his way again, angels of God came to meet him. When Jacob saw them, he exclaimed, "This is God's camp." So he named this place Mahanaim, which means literally two camps. And so Jacob's here, and if you remember when Jacob was leaving Canaan to go on the run away from Esau, who's on his tail, thinking he's going to be killed. When Jacob leaves, he also saw this dream where he saw like this ladder or this stairway to heaven, and God was right at the top, splendor and majesty, and there's like all these angels ascending and descending. So that's when Jacob left. Now he's kind of entering back into the land and has another vision of all of these angels all around him. It's like God has allowed him to blink, and suddenly he sees this angelic realm that's like always there. Now, when we kind of hear these parts or read these parts of the story, we might go, yeah, I'm kind of trying to get my head around this whole angel thing. And that's really how it was in biblical times too. They didn't see these things all the time, or if any at all. And so they often had that sense of, yeah, is this true? They didn't really trust the whole thing, which is often the way it is for us too. For Jacob, God has blinked. He's seen this angelic army reminding him God is going to surround him with his angels to protect him and his whānau wherever he goes in these wanderings. And so he names this camp Mahanaim, meaning two camps, because you have Jacob's camp and you have God's camp. Now, at this stage of the journey at this campsite, Jacob should find this dream incredibly comforting, because there's obviously a context where this dream's coming. Jacob is very afraid. And the reason he's afraid really comes down to a one-word answer: Esau. Remember Esau, last time that Jacob heard about him, 20 years ago, Esau made a vow to kill his brother when dad had died. And 20 years has gone by, but the question flooding Jacob's mind is, have these past 20 years caused my brother to mellow, to forgive, to move on, or have these 20 years, every single day of those 20 years, has he been coming up with some new delicious plot of revenge to get back to me? And Jacob doesn't know which one that is. And the question for us as hearers of the story really is, will this comforting vision of these angels of God descending, ascending all around Jacob, will this cause Jacob to trust God on this next stage of the journey, or will Jacob do what he normally does and just take matters into his own hands? It's like Jacob blinks again, and he no longer sees the angelic army. Instead, he sees the Jabbok River, and he knows on the other side of that Jabbok River is going to be Esau, and he doesn't know whether the 20 years have caused his brother to mellow or plot revenge. And so Jacob sends some messengers ahead with a warm greeting, seeking to test out the waters, and we read, "A message from your servant Jacob. I've been staying with Laban, Uncle Laban, couldn't get away until now." A kind of little deceptive in the answer he's giving there. "I've acquired cattle and donkeys and sheep, also men and women servants. I'm telling you all this, my master, hoping for your approval." Jacob is laying it on thick. And the servants come back and say, Esau didn't really say a whole lot. In fact, he didn't say anything at all, but we did notice he's got 400 men coming this way. Yikes, you can imagine Jacob thinking. It's pretty clear that Esau hasn't moved on. He's been plotting revenge. Delicious revenge is about to come Esau's way. And it's no wonder that Jacob responds here in the text. We read, Jacob was scared, very scared, panicked. Sure, the vision of these angels was good and great and all that, but Really, it's kind of time, isn't it, again, for Jacob to take matters into his own hands, always the schemer, always the manipulator. Jacob comes up with the four-pronged strategy. Strategy number one, divide into two camps. If Esau takes like one of the camps, maybe one of the camps will survive, keep some of his family, keep some of the flocks and wealth and herd, and maybe he can still get on with his life. And if you miss the irony, there is an irony here, isn't it? This is all taking place at campsite 1, Mahanaim, meaning two camps, which was like God's camp and Jacob's camp. And now as Jacob thinks about a strategy, it's like Jacob camp number 1 and Jacob camp number 2. As Jacob starts to put a strategy together and try to safeguard and protect his wealth and some of his family. Leads us to strategy number 2, pray. Now, there's a little bit of trust going on here, but I think a lot of this for Jacob is probably, well, divine help. I mean, it can't be bad. I might as well just pray. It can't hurt the whole situation. The strategy number 3, appease Esau with lots of gifts. Just bask in all the presents for him. So he sends a substantial gift, 550 animals. I'm told that the average dairy farm in New Zealand is like 80 cattle. So 550 animals, this is a large gift. And we know what's motivating this for Jacob because we're told in verse 20, I will appease him by sending a gift ahead of me. After that, I will meet him. Perhaps he will then accept me. I mean, he's just as calculating as ever, isn't he? His strategy for being accepted comes through bribes. And then finally, strategy number 4, send my family to the other side of the Jabbok River while I rest and recharge. And with all his family and possessions, he moves on from camp number 1 to campsite number 2. And here at campsite number 2, Jacob is going to come across a pretty significant detour in his life. He's not going to leave campsite number 2 the same man at all. And so this is what we read. Next slide there. During the night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 servant wives, his 11 sons, crossed the Jabbok River with them. After taking them to the other side, he sent over all his possessions. This left Jacob alone, all alone in the camp. So here he is alone, and he's about to encounter something. He's all alone. All these questions are running through his mind, wondering what's going to happen tomorrow. What will the morning bring? Ever been there before? Staring up at the ceiling, wondering what's going to happen tomorrow? What will the sunshine of a new day bring? Well, suddenly here in the pitch of night, hands grab Jacob. They fling him to the ground. Unexpectedly, Jacob finds himself in a wrestling match that's going to go on for hours. And this isn't a dream this time. This is actually happening to him. We read again, this left Jacob all alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. So like a whole night of wrestling. And amidst this straining, Jacob frantically tries to figure out, who is this person? Is it a thief? But if it was a thief, he might have stabbed me, taken my stuff, done a run it. Can't be a thief. Is it Esau? But if it was Esau, it'd be like 400 men coming. Why would Esau come by himself? The stranger, whoever the stranger is, seems to be strange because he's wrestling me as if wrestling is the point. I mean, who would do that? And this stranger is good. But remember, Jacob is a fighter. He's always been able to hold his own. He would handle this moment too. He would beat this man. He would win again. He would come out on top as he always did. But this time, no matter what Jacob did, the stranger couldn't be beaten. In fact, it felt to Jacob like there was this hidden power in the stranger that scared him. And on through the night he wrestled. And then suddenly it came to this pivotal moment when the stranger shows that he's been holding back the entire night, that he has the strength and the power to break Jacob at any moment. The stranger simply touches Jacob's hip. And there is this energy, there is this force that hasn't been previously used. And with a mere touch, the stranger reduces Jacob to a clinging doll. And Jacob's hip is coming apart at the seams. It's this pivotal moment where the stranger, God, now has Jacob's attention. And it's like in that touch, it's like God is saying to him, Jacob, that's enough. It's enough. All your life you've been unwilling to let me in, to let me be in control. Throughout your life, I've promised you good. I've told you my plans. I've told you what I'll do for you, but you've never waited for me to do it. You've never trusted that I would do what I have said I will do. You've always gone off on your own, doing it your way, counting on your own schemes, your own cleverness, your own ability to handle things. Cheating your brother, deceiving your father, alienating your father-in-law. And even though I'm bringing you back to this land, just as I promised that I would, here you are once again. It's about your schemes, dividing your family into two, bribing your brother to save your own skin. Jacob, you thought your biggest challenge was tomorrow when you cross the Jabbok River and face Esau. In fact, throughout your whole life, you've always seen someone else as the problem. It's always been out there. It's always been your brother, your father, your father-in-law. You've always blamed your problems on somebody else. But the problem isn't out there. The problem is in here. Jacob, it's time to trust. Jacob, it's time to yield. And right there, as Jacob's hip aches like fire, he comes to the realization he has no more tricks up his sleeve. Honestly, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. We read. He touched this really dad joke. We read, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of its socket. Then the man said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. After all, no one can see God and live. And Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. There it is again. You know, here's Jacob. He knows that he now knows who he's been wrestling. This is the very God whose blessing he has been scheming to gain his entire life. This is the same God that he had last seen high and lifted up at the end of that staircase or ladder up to heaven. God had been robed in light in that vision. And here he is, shrouded and hidden in the darkness of the night. But no longer is he fighting, but he's desperately grasping onto God. Jacob cries out, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The stranger, God, spoke again. What is your name? What is your name? Now, God's not asking for information, but he's asking for a confession. Will you come clean with me? Will you be honest about who you really are? You know, the last time Jacob was asked his name was a question from Isaac, his dad. It was that story when his dad wondered who this was that was coming in to get the blessing. It was Jacob disguised as Esau. And when he was asked that question, what's your name? On that occasion, Jacob lied and said, I am Esau, as he stole the blessing. And after 20 years of wanderings and exile, always looking over his shoulder, he realizes he's now in the very presence of the all-seeing God. And once again, he's seeking a blessing. And once again, the person who's about to give the blessing is asking his name. This is a pivotal moment. How will he respond to this echo of the past? My name is Jacob. My name is heel grabber. My name is manipulator, deceiver. I am Jacob. All my life I've been Jacob. Self-centered, scheming Jacob. God knows I am Jacob. What a pivotal moment in Jacob's life. You know, pivotal moments happen in all of our lives that are largely unexpected and disruptive. It might start out as a nagging problem. Perhaps it's in your studies and someone else gets the award that you thought you were up for, or you didn't get into the course that you thought would be pretty easy. You had your heart set on it. Might be a difficulty in your marriage. There's some irritation, or there's like some stupid argument that just goes on for days, different ideas about how to handle in-laws and finances. Or it might be at work. Sales are going down, clients aren't returning calls, employees are leaving. A pivotal moment may emerge in your children or your grandchildren. They're having problems at school. They're hanging out with the wrong crowd. They're going down pathways they shouldn't. And there you are. You're thinking about the problems. What can I do to solve them? How do I get past them? What do I say? Maybe I should do this. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And you're preoccupied with how you're going to maneuver things, kind of scheme things to make them all work again. And then suddenly, without warning, it just turns into this catastrophe. And what began as this niggle, what began as a difficulty that just needed a solution, now becomes this disaster that's heading for destruction. And now all of a sudden, your friends have deserted you. The marriage is falling apart. You can't even speak to each other anymore. You can't even bear to be in the same room. Things are disintegrating at work. There's every possibility that downsize is going to affect you, and it's near to impossible to find a job now. Your child stays out all night. You don't know where. He's getting into serious trouble, showing signs of addiction. And there you are, beside yourself, wondering what's happening, what's going on, where did all this come from anyway? And it takes you a while to wake up and realize the problem is not your spouse, it's not your boss, it's not your job, it's not any one of them. The problem behind all your problems is not out there. The problem behind all your problems is in here. And it's like for too long, there's just been these blind spots, the failure to fully grapple and see the situation. But suddenly God leaps into your circumstances and wants your attention and wants to wake you up to what's really happening for you to see yourself. It's God who's struggling to remove something from your life, to break you out of the pride, the self-centeredness, the lovelessness, the misplaced pursuits. It's God who's trying to get your attention, reorienting your life, your vision, that you can look into the mirror and see Jacob's reflection staring back at you and at me. I mean, Jacob's in all of us. This is us. This is all of us. And too often we're blind to the problem behind our problems. It's why God brings us to pivotal moments where He wrestles us into a transformed life. And He does it right there at the Jabbok River, whatever that Jabbok River is for you and me, the place where we have to face our fears. You know, I sense that some of you here today are on the edge of that Jabbok River right now. Some area or areas of your life where you're resisting, wrestling, struggling, trying everything to forge your way forward. And it's like God is whispering to you in this very moment, that's enough. Is it my way or your way? Is it going to be me or is it going to be you? In his book, God's Rascal, author Dale Davis, talking about Jacob, sums up this whole story this way. Sometimes God in His grace will oppose you, may cripple you in order to force you to face Him so that you will have to struggle with Him, hang on for dear life until you realize that only He can give you what you need. He does not oppose you or cripple in order to destroy, crush, or mangle, but to get you to seek Him only. And I realize that's quite heavy. But this is what God did in this pivotal moment in Jacob's wanderings. It's what I've experienced in my life too. So how does God respond to Jacob when Jacob comes clean about who he is? I love the gracious way God responds. Listen to this, verse 28. Your name will no longer be Jacob, heel grasper, deceiver. From now on, you will be called Israel because you have fought with God and with men and have won. Really? That last part, you struggled with God and you've come out ahead? I thought Jacob lost in this whole wrestling match. I thought he got touched and became like this grappling doll. But it's like God is saying to him, Jacob, the ultimate battle has been with yourself. It's about you owning up to your self-reliance. Jacob, this wrestling match really is representative of your entire life. It began when you were wrestling with your brother. It continued when you were grasping at his heel. It continued in this struggle from person to person, from place to place. Your whole life has been this grasping after the blessing, but going about it the wrong way. And you've sought acceptance through bribes. You're seeking prosperity through deception. You're seeking a name for yourself through schemes. But Jacob, the blessing is a gift from me. It's in a relationship with me that you receive it. And the name Jacob captured who he once was up until this point. But God steps in and says, I am now giving you a new name, a new identity, a new direction. No longer are you Jacob, you are Israel, the one who struggles with God. And as the sun rises on a new day, Jacob steps into a new life as Israel. And as he continues his journey with all the unknowns still in place, he still needs to cross the Jabbok River. Esau's still on the other side. He doesn't know how Esau's going to respond. But with every step as he journeys on his way in this next part of his wanderings, every single step, he lives now with a limp. Every step dramatically reminding himself of this pivotal moment where he came face to face with this detour and he was reoriented on a whole new direction. In his book, Leading with a Limp, author Dan Allender sums it up really well. He says, prior to the limp, scheming and deceit marked Jacob's life. But after wrestling all night with God and gaining a limp that was obvious to all, Jacob in many ways left a different person. His story shows that God intends to wrestle with each of us in order to both bless us and cause us to walk and lead with a distinctive frailty. The story of Jacob, he continues, exalts not the struggle, but the goodness of God as he blesses a conniving, undeserving man. No matter how far off the mark we might be, we see in this account the promise that if we open up ourselves to meet God, we will not come out of the encounter the same. We will walk a new path. Do you hear what he's saying? He's saying this isn't just like some historical biography of the past of Jacob's life. This is about the way God brings us to pivotal moments where he wrestles us into a transformed life. You know, this story was first heard by a people who descended from Jacob. Do you know what their name was? The Israelites. And this story gave them identity as the people of God. In fact, the first time they heard this story was from Moses, the author of Genesis. It's like 400 years after this story has taken place, the people of God, the Israelites, are on the edge of the promised land. Moses has led them out of Egypt where they had been enslaved and all these wanderings over 40 years. He's brought them to the very edge of their Jabbok River experience, also known as the Jordan River experience. On the other side of that Jabbok or Jordan are these enemies they know are there. They're like the size of giants. They know they have it in for them, and they're afraid, and they don't know what it's going to look like as they cross over that river. And it was tempting for them at that riverside to run or to scheme or to find some way forward. But God wanted his people to trust him. It's always what God wants. After all, it's only people who depend upon God who can actually enter into the promised land. And hearing the background to their name was a reminder about their identity. Reminder about their past and deception and scheming and manipulating, but also the reminder about a new identity that God can bring to them when you step out and you cross that Jabbok or that Jordan in full trust of God, expressing your need of God. That is at these pivotal moments where God allows us to be transformed. You know, there's been moments in my life when I've come face to face with the problem behind all my problems. And I've had to own up to my own issues. Many times those issues are connected to my past and to my family of origins, along with the unique kind of traits and dysfunction I kind of add into that whole list. And it's in these pivotal moments, it's like God has touched my hip. And they've been painful moments. But looking back, I wouldn't trade them for anything. Because it's through those painful moments I've become a better person. And what I find interesting is that Jacob, at his very first camp, seeing the angels of God, seeing this comforting vision of the angels coming, surrounded by these angels, this should have brought him comfort, probably did, but didn't transform him. It's only when he came to camp number 2, this wrestling match where he has to come face to face with himself, that there's actually transformation that happens in his life. And I wonder if there's a lesson in that for us, the way God wrestles us into a transformed life rather than comforts us into a transformed life. Certainly true in Jacob's wanderings. I found that true in mine too. Perhaps today you're on the edge of some Jabbok River and you're resisting and you're wrestling and you're scheming and you're trying everything you can think of to try to forge your way forward. But what if this is a pivotal moment designed for God to open up your eyes to see your own flaws, to see your own fears, to see your own desperate need of God? And what if God is bringing you to this very moment where he's saying, that's enough, that's enough. Is it going to be me or you? My way or your way? Because the big idea that comes through this story is that God brings us to pivotal moments where he wrestles us into a transformed life. Today may have sparked some area for you or areas for you that you need to come clean on. Might be that there's some areas that have been hidden from others, maybe you haven't really owned up to. Might be some areas that you've been blind to, but it's like the Spirit of God has allowed you to see something today in a fresh way. And it's a moment of struggle when we come to those kind of moments. But if we will do the work of confession, if we will do the work of coming clean before God and others, it's actually this detour that reorients us in our journey where we go a new direction. We'll likely live with a limp. There's likely some pain from that sharing, from that pain from that process and steps we need to take. But it's through that painful journey that it's like God is able to transform us from the inside out. And I can't promise you that it will be easy. Wrestling with God is never easy. But I do know that it is the best way forward. In a moment, we're going to take communion. As we come to the table, we really have the opportunity to be honest about where we are and our need for saving. Not just saving from past, but even saving in this very present moment. We come to the tables, don't we, with our hands empty, because that's all we can offer God, is who we are. And our need and our problems and our issues, we come needy, we come desperate. But as we come to God, whether it's the first time or the second time or the 2000th time, we come. And in the bread and the cup, it represents the access to God that we have. And that access doesn't come from us because our hands are empty. There's nothing we can do. But we come and we're honest about who we are. God, here I am in my failings. Here I am in my dysfunction. And we come and receive the bread and the cup, and we receive forgiveness that came at a great cost to Jesus in his life and his death, his resurrection. And as we receive it, we're reminded that we have a new name, a new identity. No longer are we who we were in our past, but we receive a new identity as a beloved child of God. And friends, just as Jacob emerged from his encounter with a new identity and the recipient of God's expansive blessing, may each one of us find a new identity and an expansive blessing as we surrender ourselves to God's transformative power. May you cross your Jabbok River with renewed trust, having wrestled with God. Let's pray together. Just in the quietness of this moment, I just want to give you the chance to reflect and talk with God about the things that He's been speaking to you about today. Doesn't need to be any magical words. Just in the quietness of your own words, let Him know where you're at. Respond to what His Spirit's doing. Father, would you forgive us for the way we often see the problem is out there. It's always in somebody else. It's always in something else. Thank you for the tender way you bring us to these points where we see something in ourselves that brings hurt to others, hurt to ourselves. Something that needs to be addressed. And thank you that you don't leave us to our own pathways. You do whatever you need to do to get our attention. And thank you that the reason you do that is because you want what's best for us. You always want what's best for us. And so even though it's painful, oh God, we want to allow you to place your finger in the areas of our lives that need something cut out, rooted out, that we would see it, that we would confess it, we would find the help that we need. And Father, thank you that everything we need is provided by you. I thank you that as we take this bread, this cup, it reminds us that we are recipients of grace, that we need you. Thank you that even though you see us at our worst, you don't turn your back on us, but you run towards us and you embrace us. And you will wrestle us where we need to be wrestled with, but you won't leave us the same. So we thank you for grace. We thank you for forgiveness. We thank you for the way you give us a new identity, a new blessing. And so we come with empty hands and we grasp onto you. We grasp onto your love, a love that will not let us go. Thank you that you hear our prayers. You hear our cries for help. You hear our confessions. And so we come and receive this beautiful grace and forgiveness from you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.